this evening we have a very special guest, Ben Martin, a former Saint. 3 times, I think, you had spells with the club, Ben. So welcome to a Podful of Saints.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to see you again.
It's great to see you. And obviously you've got Jake and Lee over there, which I guess probably want to say hello to you as well.
Hey, boy. How you doing, mate?
Hey, boys. How are we?
Very well.
Not bad, thank you.
Good.
Oh, we've got lots of memories here to go back over. We start at the beginning then, Jake. No, not interested in Jake's career, are we? And, beginning, Ben. Born in Harpenden. I've got down here, you started with Barton Rovers Youth, is that correct?
No, I was Harpenden Colts.
Yeah.
Barton Rovers, no, I only went there for about 3 games when Jimmy was there for a bit.
Oh, much later on then. You probably weren't a youth player by then.
No, definitely. Over the hill.
Shan't be using that website again.
No, Harpenden Colts, Dave, and then, until about 13, 14, and I think it was like Millwall, Luton, Watford. So, yeah, just Harpenden.
What happened to those clubs? You just go for a trial, or do they come and look at you, or what?
Yeah, well, I was at Millwall from about 9 or 10, but the travelling got too much. And then, obviously, Luton, Watford, the closest by. And, I can't really... it was so far, it was so long ago. I think I was just about to get YT at Luton, which is like the sort of development onto being a pro, and I'd done my cruciate ligament in my knee, and then had like a sort of 2-3 year gap from the game, and then came back through Harpenden Town. So I just sort of thought nothing of a football career anymore, and then sort of just by chance or being lucky, I think a lot of the times someone's there watching when you play well, and then it went from there.
It's funny because this dodgy website says you went to Swindon Town from Aylesbury United. Is that a load of rubbish again?
Well, no, what happened? I went from Harpenden. I was at Harpenden Town and we were playing London Coney Reserves in a friendly, and there was someone to do with Barnet at the game. So they persuaded me to go down and train with Barnet. And at the time, who was there? It was either Martin Allen or I can't remember. There's like an ex-Spurs guy. I'm going to say Peter Shreves. Is that really
possible? Yeah.
I think he was there. And then basically, so I played a friendly there, and then from there's a guy called Craig Maskell. He was ex-Swindon and played for a few league clubs. He was at Aylesbury, and he took me down there, and I played about 3 games. And in those 3 games, there was a scout from Swindon. So literally in 4 games, I went from playing Harpenden Town to signing a pro for Swindon. So it was a crazy time. It probably happened too quick, to be honest. I was a little bit naive to pro football and what it was all about, and I missed all the stuff you probably should and had to do as a YTS, cleaning the boots and all that sort of stuff. Had a bit of know-how, but either way, it was a great experience, and just a little bit too quickly for me, I think.
We got 1 game, I think, for Swindon Town, LDV Van Trophy, 2-1 defeat to Boston United back in October 2003, and you were at centre forward.
I came on as sub, I think, in the second half. I actually played really well for a centre half. And to guess, who was in goal that day for Boston?
I wouldn't guess.
Was it Bazza?
Yeah. That was my first experience of the mad Paul Bastock.
Well, how come you didn't score then?
And obviously being up front as well, it would have been nice to have scored, wouldn't it? But no, I did okay, and then I played in 2 reserve games after that up front, and the gaffer was like, "Nah, I think you're a centre half, mate," and I was like, "Yeah, I think you're right."
Well, because of your height, what about when you were a kid? Did the coaches ever shove you up front then?
I was always a centre midfielder as a kid. I was a centre midfielder until about the age of probably 12, 13. I was always massive. So I was always like, half a foot taller than everyone else. I was always a lot faster than everyone else because obviously I was bigger than everyone else. I think James Kolotsky was the same. If you ever speak to Kolotsky, he was a lot bigger than everyone else as a kid. And I literally just used to run through teams. But it was like I was 2 years above people as a kid. And then obviously people caught me up in height and in pace. And I got moved back to centre-half just after I started senior school, I think.
Can't imagine many have caught you up on height, Ben.
No, not many have caught me up on height. Just pace, mate. Just pace.
Of course, Swindon, I guess, ended on a low note.
Yeah, it was a funny one, really. I didn't really, like I said, I was just very naive to pro football. It was a great learning experience, but I just wasn't ready for. I mean, you see the amount of players that come down to St Albans level on loan and stuff like that. I was one of them, you know, and I had no experience. But yeah, it did. I left Swindon, and then I think I went to Oxford on trial. Graham Ricks was there. I'm friends with his son Robbie, so I went there for a trial. That didn't work out, and that's when Steve came in. I think I spoke to Steve Castle, and St Albans was my first non-league club, really. You know, I played for Aylesbury for 3 games, but really my first non-league club was St Albans, which was nice for me as well because it was local and I'd moved away from home to live in Swindon. So to come back to Harpenden and play for St Albans was good, although at that time the team wasn't in a great shape. I think John Gibson was around. Sort of, was he around? Was he leaving that time? No, he wasn't. But yeah, that was just before Colin. I'm going to say Colin and Kashi. Is that right? They're coming after.
Well, yeah, your first 11 games, we managed to win one of them.
I knew you'd come up with a nice stat for me, Dave.
Tragically, your debut was against Bournemouth, which we're actually going to come on to later for other reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Castle, he was always under pressure that time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and it was early in his management career. He was obviously, I think he was friends with John. He had something to do with the college. So it was difficult. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you, Dave, I can't remember much of the first sort of year or so of my sort of playing career in the non-league, because it was just I went from thinking I was going to be a pro at Swindon, you know, to then going, oh, okay, this is it. Even though you put me back a year and a half ago, I was playing at Harpenden Town. So if you'd have offered me then to play for St Albans, it would have been like, wow. But yeah, for Stevie, and I went back and I finished with Stevie Castle. I love Stevie, he's a great guy, real salt of the earth. What you see is what you get, which is what I like in anyone. But yeah, it was difficult for Steve at that time. But yeah, he's doing well now. So
you mentioned Stuart Cash came in and didn't quite get a long service award, 2 games, and he was off. Colin Lippiatt, much older, more experienced manager. How were things under him? Because bearing in mind, you missed a fair chunk through injury of his time.
Colin was, I mean, it's been said by everyone, Colin was just total different breed person to anyone I've ever come across in management and out of management. He just had his own style and it worked. I went to meet Clarky the other week. We were talking about him and we couldn't even put a finger on what he did or what he did well. He sort of came in and it was like a comedy sketch for like, I don't know, half an hour before a game. And there wasn't a great deal of tactics but he just relaxed everyone, made everyone laugh. And everyone was just sort of happy and it was just a really good environment to be around. And yeah, he was, I'd say very different. But unfortunately for me, I got injured probably about, was it the next season, I think? So Colin came in and then the next season, I think I got injured about 3 games in or whatever it was.
Well, you got injured in that friendly over at Tring Athletic. Do you remember it? That
was it. So I missed that whole promotion season. Yeah. So when people talk about that season, you had to sit and watch it. As it was really tough because the lads were flying, and yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but at the same time, great because every game. I mean, I'd be doing my rehab, and then I'd have a shower, and like sort of 10 minutes into the game, especially if we were at home, we used to score like 2 or 3 goals early a lot of the time. So it was always like a roar from the crowd. So it was a good season to watch in some ways, but obviously not in others. I think Scotty Cousins got really badly injured near the end of that season as well.
Up at Tamworth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At that time, Lee, what's that? Which one are you, Ben? At that time, you're out of the game so long. Did doubts come into your mind about whether you're going to make it?
Not really, because I'd ruptured my cruciate ligament in my right knee when I was 16. I was just about to join Luton, like I said earlier, and so I'd done it before. My only worry was it does change you. It changed me as a player totally. I mean, like I say, I was reasonably quick, believe it or not, as a kid, and then having the knee injury in my left knee slowed me down. Then I had it in my right knee, and I'm thinking, you then have to adapt your body. You can't move like you used to be able to move. The rehab's not as good as what it is now. So I was slightly concerned, but I knew I could get back. Because I've done it before. I've done it in just over 6 months before, which was really good. I think this one took me about 9 months to a year. But yeah, like I said, I've done it before, so I knew I could do it again.
Lee, Jake, you want to chip in anything on the early days of Ben's career at Clarence Park?
One thing I would say is that I spoke to Gary Elphick last year, and he was sort of telling me about the team and the squad under Colin there. And one play he did say he didn't get to sort of play with you as much as he would have liked, is yourself. And I just thought, is there a centre half partner that you've had over your time at City where you thought maybe they could have sort of gone on to the pro game or gone on to sort of bet themselves, or were they sort of quite content? I'm not talking about Lockie here. Lockie, top man, but it's just I didn't know whether there was sort of someone who you saw at City thinking, what, if he applies himself, he could be, something else.
Yeah. I mean, Gaz was close as he played a game for Reading or Brighton or someone. I think the best one I didn't get to play with, might be controversial, was probably Patrick Adar, I think. He was what I would call, in my eyes, a proper centre-half. He was strong, nasty. He could play a bit. He couldn't kick the ball. But he could, he was a proper centre-half. And, I mean, I know what happened to hold on, boys, just one sec. I'm charging the iPad and not my iPhone. Hold on. Sorry, boys. Yeah, Patrick. Who else? I think, he didn't play next to him, but Chris Seaby, he was a right back stroke centre half. He definitely could have or had a chance to go higher.
But again, he was he was another one who had a really bad injury, didn't he? And it's just bad luck and bad timing, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Do you know what? It sounds bad. I'm trying to think of all my centre half partners.
Well, I'm looking at a list now, Ben. I've got to say you carried all of them.
Yeah, right.
Well, you had Ryan Frater for a long time, didn't you? I suppose.
Yeah, Frater's great. Frater's a non-league centre half, though. I think he wouldn't mind me saying that.
What about Adam Everett at the back four?
He was the same. Yeah. Although I love Ads, I'd have him in my side any day of the week because he's he'd fight his way out of anything, Ads.
Well, you came back from your injury and you played in our first match in the conference away to Kidderminster Harriers. Right, you only came on as a sub. I haven't got what minute here. It's probably quite late. That's the stage you want to be on, isn't it?
Yeah, I still remember that day, actually. I think we won 3-0 and they had, I believe, Jeff Kenner and someone half decent up front. He used to play for Derby, I think. But, no one expected us to do anything that day. And I think we were all still buzzing from the season before. But it was great for me personally to get back and, again, get over sort of thought that I got over the injury, and then I think I injured myself in the next game against Cambridge.
Over a whole season, you only played 10 games, and that was the injury presumably stopping you.
Well, see, when I had my first knee injury, the surgery was really good. What I didn't know at the time on the second one is they didn't quite do the graft tight enough in my knee, so it allowed for more movement in my knee, which meant I had to do more rehab and the muscles around my knee. I didn't know at the time. So then I came back and I just kept coming back with meniscus cartilage injuries, which have carried on throughout my career, really. I've had 10 knee ops on my left knee now. And I think really, I know it's out of context a little bit, but right at the end of my career, I got smashed from behind by a guy called Lee Hughes. I think I put it on Twitter. I don't know if you heard about it. He literally just kicked me off the ball on my bad knee and tore all my meniscus, and I basically got nothing left. So, after what I've gone through for sort of 15 years, for him to do that, so I was a little bit bitter, to say the least. But I managed to get back to sort of nearly winning the league with Royston and getting to the quarter-final of the trophy, and then COVID obviously cut it all off. So,
of course, your 2007-8 season, it looked like we were going to go for a second successive relegation, having been relegated from the Conference National the year before. Then, 11 games from the end of the season, Nick Eyre was dropped in goal and Paul Bastock came back. It just seemed like a totally different attitude in the team and the club when he arrived, and somehow we avoided the drop.
Yeah. I think on Baz's first game, I scored an own goal. Is that
right? I hope not, because we won 3-0.
Oh, did we?
Way to Western Supermare.
I thought it was away to Hornchurch.
No, it's away to Western Supermare.
Oh, okay. I thought that I scored an own goal. Basil was in goal on his debut, but yeah, that. Anyway, whatever happened that day, that kicked off our relationship, really, because we sort of had a bit of a chuckle about it afterwards. He went mental at the time, but even though it wasn't my fault, obviously. But yeah, it was just total different. I mean, it's just funny, isn't it, when certain things change. You don't even have to change 5 or 6 players. It could be one player, it could be 2 players, it could be a manager, it could be a chairman, it could be anything. And I don't know why. Sometimes, there's no explanation. It just sparks something, or people feel more comfortable or happy or whatever. I don't know. Maybe take the fear out of playing. I'm not sure. But
it's funny you say that, because looking at the teams for those final 11 games, there weren't that many changes. He just seemed to change the mindset, give us a rock at the back or whatever. But it certainly changed our fortunes. He got Player of the Year. He got in 11 games, Player of the Year, Conference South Player of the Month. It's just balmy.
Well, I think also that the fans, when someone like that comes in, the fans see, and when he comes in, and you compare him to maybe the last goalkeeper or the previous 3-4 goalkeepers, and they see this presence and this, not just someone on the pitch, but someone off the pitch. And he was obviously our spark for us, and it also, it sparked the fans as well. And he went on to be. He was already a legend, but he went on to be a St Albans legend as well.
Jake, we did a thing with Ben on Radio Verulam earlier this year. Do you remember the question you put to Ben about Bazza? And do you want to ask it again?
I actually don't. You'll have to sort of remind me or ask on my behalf.
Quite simply, you said, what's it like having him behind you, bawling you out all the time?
Yeah. I think I answered it then. It's just, like I say, Colin as a manager, Bazza as a player, they're just like, you just don't get them. He was one of a kind, and we used to sort of argue and play up to each other sometimes for certain reasons, and it was all a bit of acting really. But Bazza was, he was mad, but he was great because he just kept you on your toes. He kept everyone else on their toes. Scotty, I remember him, Scotty Cousins, his 2, Scotty Cousins, Tom Davis and Siebes. He just used to absolutely bellow at and just like curse him to the ground. But he got the best out of him. Scotty hated him on the pitch. Absolutely hated him. You know what Scotty's like? I just want to play football. But yeah, Tom Davis he didn't really care because he was just a wind up himself. But he probably helped Siebes as well, because Siebes was quite quiet, quite young at the time. And he was definitely one of a kind. I love Buzzer. Love him.
The one thing I would say, Ben, as well, we were sort of talking about, especially that period where it wasn't going well, as you sort of said, it was a rough old time being a City supporter. But then those last sort of 10 games, and obviously the following season, City fans just want people that are passionate about the club. You know, results are almost sort of secondary. You just want people who care and they want to perform and they're just passionate. And I think all those players there you just highlighted, and Bassett in particular, they are just the epitome of what a club like City needed at that time, mate, really.
Yeah, definitely. We had it was a Legends game, but I don't know, it must have been about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And there was me, we tried Siebes, me, Cuzzo, Tom Davis, I think Ram was there, not sure. But they were the sort of lads that, yeah, like you say, when you're down in the crap, you know, you need. And I think what also helped as well, there was a couple of us that were quite local as well, which helped sort of with the fans and, you know, and yeah, we've been in a couple of bad situations, I think, when I've been at St Albans. The second one when Jimmy left and Ian came. And like I say, sometimes it's just that spark. You just need that one thing or something, and it galvanises everyone together.
Well, you mentioned some bad times during your time at the park, Ben. Well, you missed the promotion season, but you played during the relegation battle 04-05. You were relegated 06-07, relegation battle 07-08, and you played when we were relegated 10-11. There's not a connection there, is there?
I never thought I got relegated, Dave. But maybe it's because I hardly ever played in the conference. Did we get relegated? Did I get relegated more than once? No.
Yeah. Well, 06-07 season, you played a few games. Obviously, you had your injury problem. But 10-11, you played a few more, 27 that season.
Did one of them, did I go to Welling?
Was that at the end of 10-11? Did you go to Welling, I think?
Yeah.
Talk about that. You had a bit of success there, didn't you?
Oh, Welling, yeah. That was, I'll be honest, that was probably my favourite time of playing non-league football. To be honest, that was where we won the Conference South. We had an unbelievable team, not individually. We were good individually, and a lot of individuals went on to play in conference and leagues. But we just had an unbelievable team on and off the pitch, which happens. I think I've spoke to you about it before. It just happens so rare, you know, like that St Albans team with Colin that won the playoffs. Again, I mean, if I'd have played that season, it probably would have been the highlight of my career, but I didn't play. So yeah, no, it was great times. It was. I hooked up with Lee Clark again. We travelled in together. So even the journeys were good fun, because you know what Clark is like. It was a bit of a slap. It was about 2 hours each way, but yeah, really, really, really enjoyable time of my footballing career.
Was he still up front then, or was he playing in midfield, Clarkie?
No, he was in midfield then. Yeah, he was another one. He had to change his game, really. I think a lot of that was to probably do with his weight. He wouldn't mind me saying. But yeah, he was a very, very, very intelligent footballer, Clarkie. Always made the right decision. Knew where to be on the football pitch. Scored goals, even when he was in midfield. The amount of headers he used to score, and he wasn't tall. He wasn't a big lad. The amount of headers he used to score. But yeah, he was playing in midfield then, and I think that's what I say. I met him the other day for the first time in about 2 years. I think he's just about retired. He was playing for Blackstones or something like that up front. I don't know what league they're in, but sounds like a pub thing to me. So yeah, no, good times.
I think we moved Clarkie back to midfield when he started to struggle for a long time to get goals, didn't he, with us? So tried him somewhere else.
And I also think that a lot of the time with that, you've always got to remember certain players are fit with certain teams. You know, I mean, it's the same as any position. Clarkey benefited for a lot in that sort of period because he had Ben Walsh putting in crosses. He had Matty Han, who was player of the season, I think Conference South player of the season on the other side. He had a foil in Cy Martin and Pap and Hats, and he had three quality midfielders behind him in Cracks, Tommy D and Rambo. So you've always got to remember who's around you at the same time. And like I say, Clarkey was a very clever player, but Clarkey wouldn't be someone that would go and beat 5 players on his own and score a goal. He wasn't that sort of player. But if you put the right players around him, he'd always score goals.
Lee, do you want to come in?
You talked about sort of players maybe looking at a position in terms of their weight. You've mentioned there Ben Walsh, you know, because you look at him and every ounce of him doesn't look like a footballer in any way, shape or form. But the quality and time he had on the ball as well, in particular, that's the one thing. He wouldn't have to say sort of beat a man per se, but he had so much time on the ball and he would always use it intelligently. And I think the one key aspect for that whole season and that sort of demographic of players that you spoke about there was just that connection. You know, I think City have always had a team of a generation where all the players just connected, whether it be the 92, 93 team, the promotion conference side. And, you know, it's just really interesting. But you don't get it all of the time. And you get players where they don't look like footballers, but you put them in the right team with the right players around them and they do click and they can contribute something absolutely fantastic to that one team for 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely, 100%. Like I mentioned earlier about when I was at Welling, sometimes it just fits. Sometimes it just doesn't fit. I don't know why. I left St Albans, I don't know, for the 2nd or 3rd time, whenever it was, and went to Bournemouth. And I felt like my form was good. I was at a reasonable age. They were chasing the title, and I just didn't fit. It just didn't work. It just didn't fit. It fitted off the pitch. It fitted. I got on great with all the lads and even the chairman and the manager and everything. But on the pitch, it just didn't fit. I don't know why. You know, and so I think sometimes people get a bit hung up with that. When it doesn't work for them at a certain club, they then go down a step, down a step, down a step. I always just had the attitude of, look, it didn't work there. The people around me, it didn't work for me. I mean, it always helped with me when I had pace around me, obviously. You know, and then probably had, again, when I went to Royston, right at the end of my career, I had Adam Murray next to me and I had 2 lads sitting in front of me. I had Ad Watkins and Spiros Mentis, and it just worked. It worked for me and it brought the best out of me, which then brought the best out of them. You know, you talk about Walshy, what a player, honestly. Him and Cuzzo, because I played left side centre half. Him and Cuzzo were just, honestly, it was a joy. What game was it? We played Grays at home, I think. We got beat 5-1. I think it was when Colin had first got there or just about to come in. And we were 1-0 up at half-time and we were unbelievable. And this was against the Grays team that had Aaron McLean, Mitchell Cole, Stuart Thurgood, John Nutter, Dean Brennan, John Mitchell, all them. They were on thousands a week then. And the first half we got, Ben Walsh was absolutely unbelievable. I think he scored a free kick from about 35 yards. But he went on to be brilliant. And then, again, he just dropped out of football. I don't know why. He's the one that, he was such a great lad in the changing room as well. And again, he hasn't really kept in touch with anyone or anything. So, real shame. But a lovely, lovely guy and a great player as well.
Yeah, that Grays match was a League Cup tie. We lost 5-2.
5-2.
We had a pretty decent side out that night, as you alluded to, I think. You mentioned Bournemouth there. You went there mid-season, 2014-15. I think you only played about a dozen games, 4 of which you came off a bench. Of course, that was your first, well, in your case, of course, your only association with Ian Allinson. How did you get on with him?
I got on really well with Ian, to be fair. I think he he came to watch me when I played for Welling against Dartford in the playoff final the year before. The year before we won the league, we got to the playoff final, lost to Dartford. Ian came and said that he'd liked me since then and kept tabs on me and all that sort of stuff. He was great, even though it wasn't really working for me. I couldn't train all the time. He understood it all. He's a good, he suffers no fools. Don't get me wrong. If you're trying to get out of training, or you're trying to get out of this, you're trying to get out of that, or you're just not good enough. He won't be afraid to tell you. But I think he had the respect for me that I was 34, 33, 34, maybe older. Been around the block a bit, and like I say, he basically said to me, in other words, he said, if it's not working on the pitch, Ben, can you just help the lads off the pitch? Can you help us get through, this? It ended up being the playoffs, which was absolutely fine with me. Josh and Callum, who were playing centre halves at the time, had a really good partnership, and I wasn't going to sit there and sulk. I'd been there and done it anyway, so I just sort of sat there and helped them through. And then when called upon, I came on. I think I came on in both semi-final and the final for the last 5 minutes when we needed to hang on and kick a few balls out of the pitch.
A few players.
Yeah, a few players. Yeah. So yeah, I got on really well with Ian. I was sort of, I wouldn't say it was I got into St Albans, but I definitely put a good word in when his name propped up when Jimmy was talking about leaving, because I'd sort of had feelers from Jimmy that he was thinking about it anyway.
We'll come on to that in a while. 11 of those players you were with at Bournemouth later went and played for St Albans, of course. Ian Anderson, connection there. That was our first season back in Conference South. Wood going for promotion, got it. Could you see the difference between the two clubs? Because we'd been senior for them for much of Wood's life, but in recent years they've flown past us, of course. And you must have felt the difference at the two clubs there.
Oh, definitely, Dave. Not so much now. I think Lawrence, for all Lawrence's faults, I think he's trying to get the club as high as he can, off and on the pitch. But what Bournemouth have done off the pitch is pretty unbelievable, and it was so professional the way they run it. Luke was so professional. The chairman, a lot of people aren't sure about Danny Hunt, the chairman. I really liked him. What you see is what you get. If he doesn't like you, he doesn't like you. He tells you. He was always good to me. You couldn't mess him about, otherwise you wouldn't be there. But what he's done to the stadium, what he's done to the pitch, what he's done with the academy, you can only admire it really from where they were. So yeah, that's something really for. I mean, St Albans are a bigger club, in my opinion. They've got a better history. They've got a bigger fan base, but off the pitch, so that's something that I think St Albans need to aspire to be where they are.
And I've tried enough times, not just the present owners, previous ones. You can't do it at Clarence Park. Clarence Park, probably.
No. Well, there was the golf day about, I don't know, a month ago, 6 weeks ago maybe. And Lawrence did one of his speeches, which I'd missed. No, I'm only joking. And no, he was just, to be fair to him, he talks a lot, Lawrence. I love him to pieces, but he is trying his absolute hardest, in my opinion, to get the club to a better place. Whether it's just Lawrence, whether it's Lawrence and John, because you don't see much of John, so I can't have an opinion on him. I don't know. But like I say, they are. I think he's trying all the right things, and fans can moan about him and all the rest of it, but they are in a better place now, I think, than they have been for a long time. You're in the second round of the FA Cup. You're near the top of the Conference South. You're getting over 1,000 fans in the club. I think there's a bit more of a connection with the community. I didn't agree with the price increase for the fans. I think they've taken it down a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, it'd be nice for them to have a connection, because that is the one thing Bournemouth don't have. They don't have a connection between the football really and the fans. They only get about 200 fans. St Albans potentially could get over 1,500 fans there if everything was going right. So I don't know what the situation is now with owners, chairman, fans, managers, but I think it's so important for everyone to be singing off that same hymn sheet.
Go on, Ben. We were going to come on to the Bournemouth game later. You've been talking about Bournemouth, Ben, for obvious reasons. FA Cup, second round, Monday week. Have we got a chance?
Have you got a chance? You've definitely got a chance, Dave. I actually played golf on the first round and caught the second half when I got home. I had recorded it, so I watched it again. And to be honest with you, St Albans rode their luck a little bit, but it wasn't like an uneven game where they really got lucky. I didn't think. Maybe I had my St Albans goggles on. I'm not sure. But if you can beat Forest Green, who are top of League 2 or League 1, League 2. If you can beat the top of League 2, then you've got every chance. Listen, Bournemouth will be ready. Bournemouth will be prepared. They are doing very well this year themselves. I would say if it was at Clarence Park, it would be a 50-50 game. I think slight favours, obviously, Bournemouth being at home. But it's the FA Cup. Anything can happen, mate.
Well, twice, of course, you played for us in the first round of the FA Cup. We managed to concede 10 goals in total in 2 games.
Here we go.
Tabs, bloody hell, mate.
But it's a lot of that, Ben.
Now you're mugging him off. Look.
He wants to fight me tonight, doesn't he?
Is a lot of that down to fitness?
Yes, I think I mentioned it on the radio. The Mansfield one. I don't think I played. Oh, you're talking
against Grimsby and you played
Carlisle.
Carlisle, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll go into all 3 really. The Mansfield one, 8-1, where we were sort of in it until probably 60 minutes. That was definitely fitness. We had a young back 4, I would say. So when people did start getting tired, probably made naive mistakes. Can't blame them for that. Grimsby, that was with Jimmy, wasn't it? Grimsby, were we 0-0 at half time or 1-0 down at half time?
You got me there, Ben.
But he brought in Ben Nunn for that one game, I think, where he hadn't played sort of too many games prior to that. It was relatively sort of a new setup as well, and it was just one of those games where I think Louis scored an absolute worldie, didn't he?
Yeah.
As well, but I think it's just
they knew their
game better, Ben. I don't think it was a matter of us making particularly massive mistakes, but I think did Chappers make a mistake in the first half or something?
Well, we were 2 down at half time. They scored in their second goal in injury time in first half.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I think I'd been injured for about 2 weeks before, so that didn't. I remember being at the end of the game, and I think Combs played centre half, and he hadn't played there before, or he hadn't played there for a while, or something. He was unbelievable, like Combs was. He was unbelievable, but at the same time, he wasn't he didn't have a defensive mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He looked like a league player that day, but it still wasn't productive in the game that we were playing. But to be honest with you, that game, we were never in it. They were better than us. They were fitter than us. And it was almost like we knew it from word go. The Carlisle game, that was, you know what? That was so close to being, I wouldn't say us winning it, but I felt like we were pretty even with them. And I think, again, we got back to 3-3, and it was literally, at that point, it was a toss of the coin. I don't even think it was fitness. I think it was just probably quality of finishing in the last 10, 15 minutes. And they scored 2 more goals. But, yeah, we were buzzing. Junior scored that unbelievable goal. They should have had a man sent off who kept fouling Junior and took him down twice badly, I think. And then I think Keith Curl subbed him.
Yeah, Michael Rains.
Yeah, on about half an hour. And again, we were 1-0 up. That would have been a game changer. But yeah, we were close. We were close that day. And you know what? And that season, really, I think the fact that I always say you're only as good as your strikers, and Junior was on fire. The fact that Junior left that season, I think, really unfolded our season, to be honest.
What about the, you alluded to it already, when Jimmy and Graham resigned, it was that day at Lowestoft, we lost 4-0. In the FA Trophy, you suggested Jimmy was already talking about it. So did you know what was coming at the final whistle?
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I think Jimmy's a very emotional manager. Took things to heart. And I've always said it to him, probably the worst thing that ever happened to Jimmy was the first season he had, really, proper season, he got promoted. You know, and once you do that, you think that's sort of that high, you think that's going to happen every year. So he hadn't said anything, but I just felt like it was coming. I worked, like I said, you know, I worked with him as well. I just felt like something was coming. He wasn't very happy. You know, I've always had this saying in football, never too high, never too low. I think it's difficult to have that as a manager. And Jimmy definitely found it very difficult when things weren't going very well. And then I think he had a few lads behind him in the dugout, which probably made his mind up for him. So yeah, like I say, that was Jimmy. It was a shame, really, because I think sometimes you probably have to go through bad spells and hard stages to sort of see both sides of it.
Well, when we had him on here, Ben, I think he said about people have short memories, and they certainly do in football, don't they? Because it was 6 months earlier we got promotion in that fantastic playoff game at Chesham.
But there's nothing else like it, I don't think. It's such a dog-eat-dog, cutthroat industry, world, whatever you want to call it. You know, like you say, 6 months earlier, you know, every fan in St Albans would have loved to have sat around the table with Jimmy and had a beer. 6 months later, it's a different story. But that is football. Unfortunately or fortunately, however way you want to look at it, that is football. And like I say, when it's bad sometimes, it's so important to try and not let it get to you and stuff. But Jimmy, it was so early in his career. And like I say, his first ever season, he probably had, it was one of my best days in football ever. And Jimmy had it in his first ever season as a manager. So it must be very hard to go from that to probably not really knowing what to do. You know, I think he got to a point as a manager and he brought in players and changed this and done that, and nothing was working. And then I bet, you know, I don't intend to go into management. So,
well, I was going to say that, Ben, you saw your mate have this incredible high, then you saw him have that incredible low relatively soon after. That must scar you if you're ever thinking about management. Yeah,
it's just not. Do you know what I always said when I retired from football? I'd give it 2 years of not doing anything, because I've done it my whole life. It consumed me my whole life. Even it always came first, even through my work life. You know, it stopped me going on holidays. It stopped me going away with my mates. It stopped me doing so many different things. So I said to myself, right, I'm gonna have 2 years of not doing it at all. And I massively miss playing on match days. That, you know, and miss the lads. But that is it. You know, watching Jimmy on the phone, honestly, it was constant. You know, at work, he is getting phone calls from players, from media journalists. He's getting phone calls from everybody, other managers about other players, other managers about other teams. It was constant. You know, chairmen, secretaries. And then he gets slated on websites. And you just think, is it worth it? You've got to really, really, really love football. And listen, I'm not saying I don't love football, but I don't think I love it that much.
Now, if you're in the Premier League and you're getting ridiculous amounts of money, you can probably brush it off quite easily. But at our level, you haven't got that cushion, have you?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. You're doing it for, listen, let's be honest, you're doing it for about 200 quid a week. Maybe slightly more for certain managers. For 200 quid a week, it's like a full-time job, and emotionally, I just see it just drain Jimmy as well. You know, it's great when it's going good, but you know, it just wasn't worth it. I now take my stepson to go and play football, watch him. It's so much easier, and like I say, every now and again I'll go and watch Royston, go and watch St Albans, go and watch some of my old teams, stuff like that.
We mentioned some of your old teams. I had to write really small to get them all on this page. We've got the likes of Farnborough Town, Stainstown, Leighton Town, Wealdstone, Ashford Town, City.
A lot of these are like 3 or 4 games, Dave, and you know it. A lot of these were like little loan spells or coming back from injury. So my main ones were St Albans, Chelmsford, Welling, and then I had like half a season at Bournemouth, half a season at Staines, and then I think the rest of them were like I say, sort of 6 games, 4 games, getting back from knee injuries because I had bloody loads of them.
But Chelmsford City, Melbourne Park. As a supporter, if you're sitting in the stands, you need your binoculars to see the pitch. Does it affect the players? Do you feel that everyone's distant, or are you just focused on the game, so you're not really noticing the crowd's a long way away?
Yeah, I absolutely hated it. It was we had a really good side, and I mean, it's no secret they had a bit of money then, but there was no atmosphere. It was just the fans were miles away. You know, it can work both ways. If you're doing really badly, if you're playing really badly, the fans aren't going to get on top of you because you can't really notice them. If you're doing really well, you don't really notice it either. But I think since I've left, I'm sure they've got like stands behind the goals or something. They
push them into place, don't they? I think.
Do they? They're on rollers, are they?
Something like
that.
They've
got much choice. It's an athletics ground, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. Who was your manager at the time, Ben?
Glenn Pennyfather.
Right.
Glenn, and assistant was a guy called Ben Chenery. Yeah, it was I don't know. Was I chasing money? Maybe a little bit then. Probably the only time. I would say, but they approached me with a good offer. It wasn't really a overly memorable season. We got to the semi-final of the playoffs, I think, in the Conference South. But for the talent we had in that squad, we should have. Well, I personally think we should have won the league. But I think that year was when Newport won it and lost only 2 games or something.
One club where you probably didn't receive too much money was Eames's lot, Skew Bridge in the St Albans Sunday League. Was that to get fitness, or what was it for?
A bit of both really. I did use it for fitness and if I was coming back from injuries, but it was all the lads I grew up playing football with as a kid. So again, I always played football to put a smile on my face and because I enjoyed it. You know, and playing with them on a Sunday, I loved it. A lot of the times I actually got caught and I either got booked or sent off when I wasn't supposed to be playing, and I had to do an apology interview to the fans at Welling and all sorts. But yeah, I mean, like, it's difficult, isn't it, Dave? Because it's right in between for me of being like what I would call a good footballer, like sort of Conference South, Conference League 2, to sort of being okay. You know, and being a pro, obviously you can't go and play with your mates and play Sunday football, but is it going to do any harm playing with your mates on a Sunday? The only thing is, I suppose, if you get injured and you can't then play and a club has to pay you, and it's not fair on the supporters and things like that. But I don't know.
It's funny. You go back to the 1960s, we had really strong Sunday sides around here. Bob Murphy's, like Albert RN Sporting Club, had a top non-league players, St Albans City players playing for them. Of course, that stopped in 1974 when amateur football effectively went out the window when players became semi-professional signing contracts. So no, you shouldn't have been playing for Skewbridge.
No, but then I think I was always non-contract, Dave, until I got to Welling. When I got to Welling, they put me on a contract. So, yeah. But I've won 5. Skewbridge, I think we're the most successful hot team in Hertfordshire. We've won 5 county cups. I've never lost the game in the county cup on a Sunday, and I will always remember them. So I don't regret any of it.
Right. Your final season at Clarence Park was 16-17. James Russell in goal. Oh, Rusty. You're teaming up again with Ian Anderson, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think, Ian came in and saved us, didn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Dave? That second half of that season, or the last 15 games, or whatever, I was really surprised that Ian split that team up. I know there was obviously we got on sort of like, I don't know, a bit of a run, and we were riding a wave a little bit. It just felt like no one could beat us. I was just surprised that he let go a few of the lads that he let go. But I suppose Ian wanted to put his own stamp on it. I think his own players.
Yeah, it's funny. Your last 14 games, we only won one of them. As you say, the side was probably changing then. He's transitional. Yeah. He's done it a few times, and because he's had a couple of relegation battles, and he's had a couple of.
We only won. What did you say? We only won one of our last 14. Did you say?
Last 14, when you played, yeah.
We only won one in the last 14.
In your last 14 games as a player with us.
Ah, right. Sorry, I thought you meant in the previous season. Those last whatever game. How many? Yeah. I don't know what happened. Honestly, I cannot tell you to this day what happened. But the junior left. We brought in Charlie Walker and who's the other centre half? Oh, what's his name? Came from Barnet or something like that. Anyway, we brought in a few players. It just didn't work. Again, it just didn't fit. They were good players on paper, but it just didn't work. And we literally, I think we were nearly top at Christmas or around Christmas time. And I left in March, I think. I got a phone call from me end of March saying that he's thinking of doing other things with me for next year. So we weren't going to make the playoffs. I think it was me, Chappers and Sammy Corks.
Yeah, poor old chaps. 199 games he was let go on.
Oh, ouch.
At least you got up to 277, Ben, with all your problems and all the clubs you played for. That's not bad, is it?
Yeah, I've done a fair few years though, I think, Dave. Yeah, I think I did all right. Considering how many injuries I had, it was a struggle at times, mate, to be honest. But at the same time, being injured, there was no better place to be than around the other lads in a football club, because it could sometimes make you quite down and depressive. But then knowing you were going in on Tuesday and Thursday, Saturday, even if it was for rehab, and seeing all the boys, and I built up a great rapport with pretty much every physio at every club, as you can imagine. And yeah, it was. So I used to enjoy going and doing my rehab, even though obviously it killed me playing wise. But
Jake Lee, chip in something?
Yeah, I'd just like to sort of say to you, Ben, you've taken some absolute abuse, mate, in terms, especially like in the latter end of your time at City. Most of it from me. But I'm more than happy to have, mate, your shirt behind me here is pride of place, mate, because you've been a fantastic servant and you've always been absolutely a top bloke with me personally as well. You've helped me out during my sort of time on the media side of things, and to play that many games, mate, for City is a fantastic achievement, and I will always remember you as a superb player for my club.
Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate that. I've had some great times there. I've had some in different times there. You have that, at most clubs. I think it sort of started for me, I think, on the, I wouldn't say negative, but we played Bath away, and I think some of the fans went for Sammy Corcoran on the pitch, and I sort of bit back, and then I think I messaged someone on Facebook or whatever it was, one of the fans, you know, and that started a little bit of a just an unnecessary, unneeded thing away from the football, really. And then obviously I left for Boreham Wood. But I've said this before, and I've said today before, most of the reason for leaving was because mine and Jimmy's relationship out of football was being affected by what was going on in football. And obviously Boreham Wood came in at the same time, and they were doing so well. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, but I could see it from a St Albans fan's point of view that I just jumped ship. But yeah, like I say, honestly, I had great times at St Albans. So many good memories. And yeah, I've got nothing but love I mean, to be honest with you, for everyone now. I spoke to one of the lads who I had a bit of to do with the Legends game, and to be fair to him, he came up to me and he was like, "Look, mate, sorry, it was this," and I said, "Look, you know, football makes people act in peculiar ways." Oh, sorry, hold on. Oh, mate, give us 2 seconds. Sorry. Yeah, football makes people act in funny ways sometimes, but yeah, like I say, I've got nothing but love for the club, and yeah, like I say, I haven't been up there as much as I probably should have been.
There were certain players, Ben, in Steve Clark's certain clubs that Steve Clark enjoyed playing against. He would always score against them, and we've had a couple against us. Jimmy Bolton's one that springs to mind. Is there always ever a forward that you thought, "Oh no, we've got him. I've really got my hands full today"?
No.
Good.
No, do you know what, Dave? I never thought about it like that. I always thought that whatever happened in a game was dependent on me. You know, like up against me. You know, I would never worry about playing against anyone. I would never think that. There were certain players I knew I had to prepare properly for. I wouldn't say I was the best at looking after myself back in the early years. I used to like to go out probably too much. But like I say, if I knew if there was a big game or I was playing against someone half decent, then I had to prepare properly. But again, in my mind, I'm thinking, we're playing, this is Conference South football. This isn't, you know, you're not coming up against unbelievable players. You're coming up against good players, but there's no one to fear. And that's just how I went into every game.
How's your young boy looking? Promising?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't into football when I met my other half. He wasn't into football. He was into rugby, so we soon changed that. And no, he loves it. That's the main. Listen, there's zero pressure from me. He just loves playing, loves training, loves being around the boys and stuff like that. So he's only 8. So that's the main thing, mate. Is that he enjoys doing it and that he carries on doing it.
Have you got a ticket for Boreham Wood, or are you going out on a golf course again? It'd be a bit dark, by
You know what? I text Danny. I voice noted Danny Hunt this morning at about 7:15 because I knew it'd get his attention. And he basically replied with, "F off, it's a bit early." No, he said that they're all gone. He said they're all gone. So he said he will keep his ear to the ground if any come up. I probably left it too late, to be honest. But I did try. I tried this morning.
Oh, well, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right. Lee, Jake, anything to add?
All good, mate. All good.
Yeah. No, I just want to say thank you to Ben for being such an awesome player for City, and as you say, for 270 odd appearances. You know, you were clearly doing something right in the City shirt.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, I did at times. I like I say, I loved not every single moment, but 80% of the time, I absolutely love playing for St Albans, and it'll always will be in the first team I look out for. Always.
Top man.
It's always great talking to you, Ben.
And you, guys.
Cheers, Ben. Take care, buddy.
Take care, lads.
Take care.
Cheers, Ben.
Bye bye.